Okay, so I want to have a conversation with you about where we are now following our classroom management professional learning. And so the plan of action, of course, was to identify part of your schedule where you feel like maybe your expectations for your classroom were not clear, and to identify a strategy that you can implement immediately. And because our goal is to move towards having a positive learning environment, not just spot on instruction, but making sure that the environment is predictable, it is consistent, so that students are flowing throughout the day, and it is very evident that they know what your expectations are, okay? So, with that being said, let's talk about the challenges that you were facing and like how I can help support you to move past that.
I think the biggest challenge is my transition from at the end of the day.
Okay.
We start math and then we go to recess and then we come back to do math, and I just feel like it gets a little chaotic, or the expectations, I feel like they're clear, but I don't think that they're as clear in the afternoon to where we know we come back in, go to the restroom, and as soon as we sit back down, we're focused on math.
Okay.
And I think that because of that, because the transition time takes so long, I'm lingering trying to finish my math lesson, and then that cuts into our pack up time,
Right.
and now my dismissal is chaotic.
So the end of the day feels rushed.
Yes.
And it feels like, and I feel like if you feel rushed, if you feel like it is unclear, then the students will feel the same way. So being able to go from chaos to content can be a huge challenge for anyone. So let's talk about the other parts of your day where you feel it is more controlled, and students are. It seems like they know exactly what you expect and it flows. Let's talk about that.
So I feel like my entire morning or reading block, I feel like the expectations are known. I have my slides up in the morning. They know to come in, unpack, start morning work. After their morning work, they get on iReady. They know we're going into calendar math, and we're going into foundations, and we're going into reading. Then they know we'll transition to enrichment, lunch, and even with that transition, when we come back, they know it's time for independent reading. They come in, they sit down and wait to be called to grab their books, find their spots. And then even after that, they log their minutes, close their laptops, put them away, and we go straight back to whatever reading activity we were doing before enrichment and lunch. And I just wish that I could get that exact smooth transition into the afternoon.
Okay, so let's talk about what routines or procedures you have. So you mentioned like when they come in the morning, there's already a slide.
Yes.
So that routine, they know that once they come into the classroom, they are to read the board. And then whatever those steps are, they follow those steps. So that routine has been explicitly taught and practiced, right? And so now it just flows smoother. So in the afternoon, when you go from recess, transitioning back into the classroom, is there something on the board? Or are you usually going off of just telling them what to do?
Telling them, or it's like a continuation of whatever we didn't finish before we left. And that could also be one of the challenges, because I feel like a lot of times it's whole group that we haven't finished before we've left. So if I decide to come back upstairs and send tables as groups, I can't necessarily start back with my whole group lesson without my whole group. And so sometimes I do try. I'll continue to go over the problem with this group, and then they'll go to the restroom. Then when the other group comes back, I'll continue to go over it with them, and then try to find some common ground to bring us all back together.
Okay, so the slides are a great visual aid. So in the morning, even when maybe they are not sure what to do, they have this visual that they can continue to look back to. So maybe in the afternoon, we can implement having some type of visual, so that when they walk into the classroom, here's a visual that will remind them of what it is they're supposed to do. Also, we want to make sure that we are predictable. I think kids they thrive a little better when it is predictable. They know exactly what's coming. They know exactly what to do. And then for the teacher, just being consistent with it, right? So I think that's something that we can implement, and I think you'll see immediate impact where you give them a visual. Also, like I said, from chaos to content, it can be hard to walk in and jump right back into it.
Right.
So maybe there should be some sort of activity. So before you go to recess, I know that you're doing number talks and maybe your interactive journal. What can we do walking back into the classroom so it doesn't feel like we just rushed into content? Maybe like some type sort of breathing activity. What do you think that you can implement, maybe that you do in the beginning of the day, a routine or a procedure that they're already accustomed to that you can do at the end of the day?
I'm not really sure why. Now that you say that, I think my brain has tricked me into thinking some of the like the online things that I use, I only use them in the morning. We do meditation in the morning, or maybe affirmations, or I found these little videos where they'll just follow a bubble. It tells them follow the big bubble, follow the small bubble, and that really grounds them.
Yes.
And I think that if I came back, and even if they were doing restroom transitions, by the time everyone was finished, maybe the video will be over, and then we can go back into whatever content that we need to do.
Right, because the goal is to bring them back. Our positive learning environment is not just about having this great instruction, but our instruction is supported by our classroom management as well. So if our class is predictable, it's consistent, students have visuals, they know exactly what they're supposed to do. Sometimes it helps in instruction because they feel like they're a part of our classroom because they know exactly what it is they're supposed to be doing. So, okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to implement a visual from coming in, and instead of jumping right into content, we're going to implement maybe a mindful, a breathing type strategy that will signal to them that, okay, I'm no longer in play mode. I am now back into the classroom, and helps them to regain their focus. So I'm going to ask you, how do you celebrate, even in the morning time, have you found that you celebrate when you see students following those expectations?
Yes.
And so that's what we want to do so how do you celebrate them?
So in the morning time, I don't like to come straight into the morning with, if a student's off task, get on task. So I will kind of use that as a teachable moment to say, I love how Robin came straight in. She got unpacked. She started her morning work. Robin, come get a sticker. And they love stickers. I found that this group, they put them on their binders, their interactive notebooks, even if it's just like a small piece of candy or going to the treasure box. I try to keep up with those students that are consistently showing that they're following those expectations. They know the routines. And it gets to the point where even if someone wasn't doing it at first, everyone starts to follow along and fall in line. And so then I end up rewarding everyone because I want them to understand that I got this reward because I realized I wasn't following expectations, but let me snap and let me get into it.
Okay.
So I think that is something that I need to bring into the afternoon. And I feel like once I get a hold of that transition time, I feel like I have more time for that. Like you said, I feel like it's a rush. I feel like I'm rushed. And so things like this and things like my mindful videos, they just completely slip my mind because everything is just so chaotic.
Right.
And another thing that I think that I want to implement for like the afternoon, it's like what they call a transition song. So finding a song that lasts for X amount of minutes, we're silent, the song is playing, and once that's over, maybe our transition from afternoon, we should all have our backpacks and be on the rug silently by that time.
And model it. Make sure, like, you're the first model, so you model it, what the expectation look like. Because I think a lot of times, like even in the professional learning, we talked about how we will say a lot of things to students without showing them like what we expect that to look like. So even if you say, okay, we're going to sing this song, get your book bag and you should be on the carpet, instead you sing the song, you get your book bag, you model it, that by the time I finish, I was sitting and this is what and so that they have that visual of seeing exactly what my teacher expects me to do, what it looks like, what it sounds like, right? So good. And so I was also going to ask a follow-up, how do you address your off-task behaviors? And so 2 parts. Do you feel like in the afternoon you have more off-task behaviors? when you come back in and when you transition, are there more off-task behaviors? Right. So how do you address those? So and you mentioned how you will point out those who are following expectations. What happens when, even after all of that positive reinforcement, you still have those students who are not following that expectation? How do you address that?
At that point, I try to pull them to me.
Okay.
We have like a nice, what's going on? Is there anything that happened that I'm not aware of? Do you need a moment? And sometimes they do just need a moment because, like I said, it can get a little chaotic.
Right.
And so sometimes I notice that a student just may be overwhelmed, or in the midst of this person running to get that or that, maybe words were said that they didn't like, or this person bumped into me, they knocked my pencil over. And so I think that a lot of the off-task behaviors just come from the lack of structure in the transition back.
Absolutely.
And I feel like once I get a hold of that, there will be less of those. But for most of them, all it takes is pulling them over, seeing what's wrong, letting them, I remind them of the expectations, what we're supposed to be doing, and then we're able to calm down and come back. And if we're not, I allow them that time out in another class, or just to sit and collect themselves for a minute before they come back and join us.
Right. So good. Sounds good. So we want to, definitely our goal is to maximize our instruction time, and it is hard to maximize instruction time if there are inconsistencies and if there are lots of off-task behaviors. And so I think we're heading in the right direction. So we're going to, from recess to content, we are going to have a visual. And instead of jumping right into our content, we are going to pull in one of those mindful videos, breathing strategy, so that now this is the signal that I am now shifting from play to work, right? And then it definitely gives them that time to kind of breathe and know that, okay, I didn't feel rushed coming in, but I had the opportunity to settle and get back into the content for the end of the day. So good. So that's what we're going to do. And then, so let's see how that works for a couple days, and then we'll reflect on that. And then hopefully we'll have positive results.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.